What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another brand new video. Now today, I'm kind of doing a first on this channel, and that is pretty much ranking the albums of the iconic metal band Metallica. Now before we get started in this ranking video, I just want to say as a disclaimer, this is just all my honest opinion. I don't really care about people who hate Metallica or like Metallica. I know a couple people just aren't really for it. I just like what I like. I always defend bands. Yeah, I figured that we should do like a little ranking video together. For this one, it's going to be studio albums. I'm not including the EPs, live albums, or that Garage Inc., but we're going to jump right ahead into the ranking video. Saint Anger. That was released back in 2003. And now, a lot of you guys might know this album over here. It's considered to be Metallica's worst album. I kind of agree. The drums are ass, the mixes are ass, and honestly, for the most part, there's no solos. Like, Kirk Hammett doesn't even do any solos on the album. I guess Saint Anger is kind of listenable. Frantic is pretty much of a weird opener. All Within My Hands is honestly might be one of the worst songs on the album to me, at least. But to be honest with you, I just don't revisit this album a lot, nor you should. I mean, I would not consider this to be a good starter to get into Metallica, but honestly, no solos, snares. It just pretty much sounds like a garbage can on this, and it's just James's voice on this album is just so corny and so awfully just bloated. And speaking of which, it just makes me overwhelmed. But I will say, Dirty Window is pretty much a listenable song. It has almost like a Motorhead type vibe to it. I think that's pretty much a good track. But overall, disappointing album. Worst Metallica album yet. Best tracks on here: Saint Anger, and Dirty Window. Load, 1996. Now, I don't really care about Metallica's mid to late 90s albums, like Load or Reload. I mean, they're pretty much the same thing, but they're like more just hard rock. Moving away from the metal genre that we were hoping to achieve, but our expectations have pretty much plummeted down the toilet. On this album here, Ain't My Bitch is actually a pretty good opener. I think it's pretty much the best song on the album. And then we kind of go down to songs that are just pretty much, honestly, just forgettable. Most notably, Until It Sleeps. Not a favorite of mine, but like it's an okay song for what it is. Music video is okay. I mean, I don't really listen to that track as much. But I will say King Nothing is also a pretty good banger as well. I mean, I like the music video for what it is. And yeah, that's pretty much, it is what it is. Best tracks on here, like I said, Ain't My Bitch, and King Nothing. Reload, following the next year, 1996. Some people might have thought Reload was going to be worse, but surprisingly, the opener is pretty much better. Fuel, James's voice on the opener. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me I'm sorry for being cringe. But I will say, after that, we kind of go straight to fucking hell after The Memory Remains. Devil Dance is just kind of a weird opener, and then after that, the rest of the songs, after that, is just kind of forgettable. But I will say Unforgiven is kind of a good break overall, but after that, it's just pretty much very disappointing from here. Not really my type of go-to albums if I wanted to listen to hard rock or 90s metal overall in general. But I will say mixes on here are pretty much decent, I would say the least. Lyrics are okay, solos are alright. I mean, yeah, they're forgettable, and also album lengths are also bloated as fuck. Best tracks on here though, Fuel, Memory Remains, and Unforgiven 2. Deathbed Manic, 2008. Honestly, I don't remember a single song on this album, but I will say the opening track on this album's pretty okay. I mean, it has some pretty good comebacks. All Nightmare Long is a pretty good debut cut on the album. The Day Never Comes starts off really slow and then gradually starts picking up speed, which I really like. Solo on that song is just wailing, and even the drums has like a little bit of Motorhead vibe to it, and I could tell they were really influenced by them. In fact, I'm wearing my Motorhead shirt as well. But to be honest with you, with the mixes on this album, yeah, the mixes are also ass. I don't know what Lars was doing on the SSL board or console, but Yeah, I don't revisit this album a lot, but I will say, like, there are some bangers. There are some bangers on this album, but I don't really kind of remember what bangers is which, to be honest with you. There are some solos that are kind of forgettable, but I will say the most memorable solos is All Nightmare Long, The Day Never Comes, which I think those are the best songs of the album. But yeah, that's all I can say. Moving on. 72 Seasons, their latest album, 2023. Kind of a step down from Hardware to Self-Destruct. I mean, this album would have been titled Overload. I mean, yeah, for me, I would give this like a 7 out of 10. But I kind of changed my mind a little bit. But am I going to change this grade on it? No. I was hoping for a better album than Hardware to Self-Destruct, but yeah. Let's just say some of the singles on here are just not that good. If Stargaze Had a Sun, yeah, honestly, I'm sick and tired of that song. Even like the songs on here, Crown of Barbed Wire, which is legit cringe as hell, and also I don't remember playing that song. Chasing Light is also kind of boring. I don't remember that song. You Must Burn, it sounds like something you would hear off of like a B-side of Reload or Load or something, or even Saint Anger for that matter. In Memoria is pretty much a okay closer. I think that's a pretty good song, but not a favorite of mine. But overall, yeah, bloated, longest album to date. Overall, very disappointing. But I will say there are some bangers on this album. And when I heard Lux Eterna, I was pretty excited. I thought they were going to bring back Kill 'Em All. But with James's rhyming with memorize, summarize, criticize, patronize, hypnotize, whatever, blah 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 blah. I don't even care. Lack of dynamics as well. That's all I get to say about this record. But overall, there are some bangers on this album. Like I said, I prefer the fast stuff over the rock stuff. Best tracks on here: 72 Seasons, Shadows Follow, Lux Eterna, and Room of Mirrors. The Black Album. Honestly, I am sick and tired of this album. I mean, obviously we're going to name the big songs out of the way. Enter Sandman, Unforgiven, and Nothing Else Matters. I am assuming everybody should have hopped on board, or just say for newbies, like, I don't know, for like high schoolers back in the 90s. Might have hopped on with this album with the song Enter Sandman, because that's like one of their biggest songs to date. Honestly, I'm sick and tired of it, and I don't even care. Overrated as fuck. That's all I'll say. But honestly, a lot of the tracks on here is ranging from decent to meh. I guess The Struggle Within is pretty much a pretty good breezer and a really good closer as well. But I will say they're kind of like leaning toward more the overrated sellout side of things. I mean, this is where like true metalheads, like, I don't know. I will say, like, they pretty much jumped off the boat after this album, after Injustice for All. I started off with this album, and after that, I just kind of grew bored. And after a few listens from this album, it can bore you pretty quickly. Best tracks on here: Enter Sandman, Sad But True, Wherever I Roam, Nothing Else Matters, and The Struggle Within. Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Now, after the overall way disappointing album of Death Magnetic, you thought Hardwire was going to be also bloated, but surprisingly, yeah, it is bloated, but surprisingly good. We got some bangers on here. Title track slaps really hard as a great opener. Atlas Rise is pretty great, but not a favorite of mine. But I will say the most groovy song on here to me is Now That We Are Dead. Like, it has like a groove to it. Even like the drumming on there is really good. It got my foot tapping as well. Moth into Flame, we kick up the speed again. For me, I think it's easily their most intense songs, as well as Spit Out the Bone, which is the closer. But to me, honestly, I find a lot of these tracks on here just kind of ranging from meh to good. Men Unkind, Confusion, I think they're just trash. I think they're just forgettable. Everything else is just pretty much hit or miss, or 50-50. But I will say, I kind of tend to visit this album a little bit more rather than 72 Seasons, unfortunately. But I will say mixes are pretty better on this album rather than Death Magnetic. Yeah, that's all I can say. Really like this album from their later stuff, and quite frankly, their best overall in their later career. Best tracks on here: Hardwired, Now That We're Dead, Moth into Flame, and Spit Out the Bone. This is gonna piss off a lot of fans, but hey, if you made it this far, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, make sure to leave your comments below. Just give your thoughts and what is your list? What are your thoughts? Do you like these albums? Do you like it? Did you hate it? What are your thoughts on it? What do you whatever. Kill 'Em All, their eponymous debut album, 1983. This is the album that started it all from the Big Four. This is probably, in my opinion, arguably their most angriest, their most fun album, and also their most thrash album. I could tell they're influenced by a lot of Motorhead, Bungie, a lot of punk bands. Hit the Lights is overall is a great opener. And then leading into the longest song of the album, The Four Horsemen, which is also another banger. But I will say It's Pulling Teeth is kind of a halting stop. I'm not a favorite of mine, but I will say after Motor Breath, which is a banger, it just kind of halts the album. I will respect Cliff Burton, his bass solos. Like, he is very talented. But however, the halt is silenced after Whiplash comes in. And easily one of the best songs on here, as well as Seek and Destroy. And then we kind of like pick up the speed again with Metal Militia, or Metal Militia. But overall, what a great debut, and honestly their best debut in the metal genre itself. Mixes are pretty good, it's fun, it's thrashy, James's voice is angry, his Kirk Hammett's solos are really good as well. Most notably on The Four Horsemen, Seek and Destroy, and of course, Hit the Lights. Best tracks on here, Hit the Lights, Four Horsemen, Motor Breath, Whiplash, Seek and Destroy, and Metal Militia. Master of Puppets. I know what you're thinking.
Oh, you got Master of Puppets at number 3? Really? Oh, God, dislike.
Okay, well, this is just my opinion, okay? I don't really find this album too overrated, but I just find it overrated just by 1.01 a bit, just a tad bit. But I will say Battery and Master of Puppets is easily one of the best songs of the album. But honestly, for Master of Puppets, on the song overall in general, I'm finding the song to be old. I mean, there's some other songs from this area like Rain and Blood, or Anthrax, or I don't know, Testament. But I will say Welcome Home Sanitarium is a pretty good deep cut on the album, as well as Disposable Heroes, which is the most intense song of the album, which I love. I think the chorus on that song hits pretty hard in my chest. And I also really like the Orion instrumental. I think it's a really good, pretty much a chill song. And unfortunately, this is the last album with Cliff Burton, which is very sad. Rest in peace. But overall, mixes are good. Most influential metal album of all time. Best tracks on here: Battery, Master of Puppets, Welcome Home Sanitarium, Disposable Heroes, and Orion. And Justice for All. This is quite surprising. Honestly, I prefer this album just a little bit more over Master of Puppets, because on this album we got some killer tracks on here. Arguably their most fastest album to date, even faster than Kill 'Em All, and I think it's more enjoyable than the rest of these Metallica albums. Blackened is a really good opener. The outro on this album, Dyer's Eve, is very intense. One is easily one of the most fastest songs today, and I tend to revisit that song quite a bit. Harvester of Sorrow, To Live Is To Die, is easily one of their best deeper cuts to date. Even Eye of the Beholder and the title track. Overall, nothing really said about this album that is kind of negative, in my opinion. Overall, their fastest album to date. Best tracks on here: Blackened and Justice for All, Eye of the Beholder, One, Harvester of Human Sorrow, To Live Is To Die, and Dyer's Eve. Coming in at number 1, we have Ride the Lightning. I love this album to death. Easily Metallica's best album and my number 1 favorite album of all time. Fight Fire with Fire is easily one of the most intense thrash openers to fucking date, and then leading up into the title track of the album, which is pretty good. And I even like that solo and thrash moment in that song. For Whom the Bell Tolls is also very groovy, easily one of the best songs as well. I like the chorus as well. Whom the Bell Tolls. Fade to Black is also a really good chill song. I think the intro to that song is really good. I like the acoustic guitar playing, even the solos as well. The choruses are really good as well on that song, and even how we pick up the speed at the end of the song. Trapped Under Ice is also a really good deeper cut, as well as Escape. It kind of falls in the same realms, like, oh, which song is like better, stuff like that. But I will say they're fast and they're enjoyable. Creeping Death is also a really good track on here as well for me. I love the chorus, I love the solo, even the ending on that album as well. The Call of Cthulhu instrumental. I like how it builds up. It just builds. Yeah, and that's why Ride the Lightning here is my favorite Metallica album and my number 1 favorite album of all time. And that's all I could say. 10 out of 10. Well, let me know what bands I should review next, and also let me know what your thoughts and what is your own list on in the comments. Okay? Cool. Cheers.